What happens when you take the classic top-down exploration of A Link to the Past, the elemental depth of SNES-era Final Fantasies, and drop them both into a fantasy version of Star Wars Order 66? You get Alabaster Dawn. Welcome back to the Gamer Buff. Today we are dissecting the newest action RPG from Radical Fish Games, hitting early access on May 7th. Let me set the stage for you. Imagine a world where the gods, the very deities fueling your mystical powers, suddenly abandon you right in the middle of a massive war against a supernatural enemy. Your allies are massacred, the planet is left in absolute ruins, and your character wakes up in the devastating aftermath as the outcast chosen. It's an incredibly punchy narrative hook that gives you immediate, genuine purpose. You aren't just a random farm boy checking off a mundane quest list. You're trying to survive and piece together what happened in a tragically broken world. I love the main character and the fact that they went with an oxymoron of calling her the outcast chosen. But after you get through the opening area, you'll see that that idea works perfectly. Now, I want to be upfront with you. This game is an absolute gem. If you're a fan of CrossCode, if you love Zelda-likes, or if you are just starving for a game with an incredibly polished action combat system, this is instantly one of the best titles I've played all year, so let's just break down exactly why. Let's talk about the gameplay, because this is where Alabaster Dawn absolutely shines. When you play a lot of these indie retro-inspired games aiming for that classic 16-bit aesthetic, you often run into a specific kind of animation purgatory. Your character gets locked into a predetermined swing, the hitboxes don't quite match the sprite, or you take damage that feels cheap because the frames just didn't align. You know the feeling. When you're standing right next to an enemy, you swing and it completely whiffs because you were a pixel too close for the game's logic to register. Alabaster Dawn has none of that. It features some of the snappiest, most honest combat I have ever experienced in this genre. If your hit connects visually on the screen, it registers, period. Hits count for you, and they count for the enemy as well. This is a fast-paced, free-flowing game that completely respects your button inputs. For example, there were multiple times during my playthrough where my character was winding up a massive charge attack, only for me to realize I was about to have some incoming damage. In older retro games, you just have to eat that damage. Here, you can cancel that charge up in the blink of an eye and dash or block to safety. The animations are spot on and they never cheat you. It completely blurs that line between Zelda combat and modern Devil May Cry style action. You can seamlessly switch from a magic sword to a hammer mid-combo, and the ranged attack, it has mapped brilliantly. You just aim with the right analog stick and pull the right fire trigger and boom. There's no awkward pausing to put your sword away and draw your bow. You weave projectiles right into a chaotic dogfight without breaking your stride. But you still have the option to pause things and switch it up if that's what you want. Now, the story is doled out in perfect bite-sized pieces. After the massive Order 66 type opening, it evolves into a journey of finding your own strength. You meet cast members along the way who have their own demons and story arcs to bear, and it all weaves together beautifully. There are sections where you walk through flashbacks and past memories, but nothing lingers too long. There are no parts where you feel the urge to just hold a button and skip ahead. It always propels the plot forward in a pleasing way. And it all presented in some of the most generous, vibrant pixel art on the market. They squeezed every single ounce of artistic potential out of the 16-bit style. But what really stood out to me was the world's ecosystem. It feels like a real, lived-in, actual wildlife. There are plenty of areas where if you don't start any shit, you can get from point A to point B without any of the enemies messing with you. It feels like an honest, living ecosystem where wild animals aren't just going to hurl themselves at someone carrying a giant sword unless they're actually provoked or starving. Not only is this a great realistic element, but it's a massive time saver if you're just trying to get to a different part of the map. That brisk pacing carries over into the game's overall design. Alabaster Dawn operates on a kind of localized hub and spoke design. It isn't a bloated open world where you desperately need fast travel points littered everywhere. It's focused, feeling almost like an open neighborhood rather than an open world. You visit dungeons, you help townsfolk, and you literally watch the towns develop and grow over time as a direct result of your side missions. Progression is handled through a clean, intuitive RPG upgrade tree right in the pause menu. It's not overly complicated, everything is clearly explained, and you earn XP simply by engaging in that buttery smooth combat. You might not max out the entire tree on a single casual playthrough, but it encourages you to explore naturally rather than grind through. On the technical side of things, I have to give major props to the optimization. I run my setup entirely on Linux, and as any Linux gamer knows, that can sometimes be a roll of the dice with early access titles, but mechanically, I had zero issues running this bad boy. No stutter, no stalls, no resets. From the opening screen on, this one ran incredibly smooth, and given how well it runs on a native Linux setup, this game is likely going to be an absolute dream to run on the Steam Deck. All of this is wrapped up in an audio package that perfectly captures the SNES era of an epic fantasy adventure. The music feels momentous and powerful during combat, but transitions into that beautiful, peaceful earworm when you're just exploring the world. The sound effects make every single hit pop, giving that combat a final layer of satisfying authenticity. Perhaps an unexpected pleasure for this gamer were the puzzles. They weren't always the hardest, but they always forced you to really sit down and figure out the latest mechanic that they added. Some of them took a little longer than others, especially for my dumbass, but they were a lot of fun to work through, and I loved how they pulled everything together. Now, as a reviewer, I always have to try to look at things critically and find something to nitpick. If I don't, it feels like I'm not doing my job. But my biggest gripe with Alabaster Dawn is simply that I want to play it more. It clocks in at around 5 to 10 hours for its current early access build, and I just want to keep living in this universe. Radical Fish has built what is honestly one of the best combat systems I've ever experienced in this genre. I genuinely think a lot of retro-style developers need to take notes on how well the system works here. It's an early access game, so more polish and content are coming, but what is already here is an absolute must-play. If you like CrossCode, if you enjoy Zelda-likes, or if you just want an amazing combat system with a thoughtful progression tree and a killer story, do not miss this. Alabaster Dawn releases in early access on May 7th. Check it out. Thanks for stopping by, folks. Hitting the like button and subscribing goes a long way towards us making more content. And stop by and check out Two Idiots Watch Indie Trailers, some of the best laughs you're going to have on the internet. Until next time, I'm the Dove, this is the Gamer Buff. Game on.